Hello, everyone. Welcome. Okay, Bahram, you're starting. You're starting early. It is Hump Day. It is April 20th, Wednesday, 2022. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is my turn to talk. And my bestie here, he is starting early. Starting early. And yes, Frankie, Bahram did beat you again. The win. Ha ha ha, hardy har har. Oh boy. No, he's not, Frankie. He's not that funny. He is not that funny. All right, I'm going to get started here. Well, at least my music is working today. Yesterday it wasn't working. Now it's working. Who knows? All right. Bahram, you're a traitor. You are such a traitor. Yep. But you're going to team chill. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. So, today's show is the hand that feeds you. And I actually had another topic today about regrets, but I'll do that one later. I keep pushing that one back. The hand that feeds you. Should you allow your friends to take advantage of a significant other's wealth? Do you have that right? And I'm bringing that up because partially from what we were talking about yesterday, sort of, kind of, but also because I was watching something on TV, a program, and do you have the right if you were married to someone who was wealthy, and or they were your significant other, you guys have been together, do you have the right to like bring your homies over and your friends and spend this person's money, or if you go out to dinner, you're inviting your friends and um basically telling them, oh, get whatever you want, order whatever you want, knowing damn well that if you were paying for it, that you would not let that happen. And just because you have a lot of money, um does that mean that you should pick up the bill? I mean, if you go to dinner with friends, usually everybody's paying, their portion. And that's it. You leave a tip, you get up, you leave. But if one person is like the wealthy one in the group, they're the ones that have the money, should they be expected to constantly pick up the tab? You know, and do we have a right to, or even your friends have a right to want to kind of sponge off of that person? So those are my questions today. And Bahram, I'm going to ask you to come up because I'm going to put you on the spot for that little win thing that you did there. Yep. You're having a show tomorrow. Oh boy, boy, oh boy. Welcome, Power Girl. Welcome.
Hi. I
You are.
don't know how my sound is because I'm actually out walking the streets looking for a shop to get cat food because the cat doesn't have a packet of food tonight. So
My
uh,
my my dogs have food.
what's that?
I said my dogs have food.
Yeah. Well, I'm now traipsing the streets looking for a shop, so I don't know how I sound if the wind's interfering or traffic or
Oh
anything,
no,
but
no, 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 you are fine.
okay.
You are fine.
So
Uh,
in regards to the topic, yeah, have you got a question or will I just go?
I mean, no, I mean, do you think that your friends should, should you allow your friends to take advantage of your wife's wealth or your husband's or your significant other's
Yeah,
wealth or even your friend's wealth? Do you think that if your friend was, had a lot of money, you bring all your other friends over to, sponge off of that person?
yeah. Um, I mean, I would think that that would get old very quickly. I think if you're financially looking after someone, whether it be a friend or a family member, it'll go for so long. But then if you don't feel like you're gaining anything back from it, whether they're helping out, with chores or do helping in any way that they can, if they're not giving anything in return, then I could see that it wouldn't last long. In regards to any experiences I've had, the only one I can think about is when I was like early 20s. Me and all my friends we kind of earned really good money, and over the years, then maybe one of us had plenty of money and the other one didn't, or we would kind of help each other out, especially on a night out. For drinks, we would maybe slip in 40, £50 and say to him, look, come down the road with us. It's a Saturday night. Let's enjoy ourselves. And then you kind of realize that over the months that money would add up and it was never being returned or any help given back. So it kind of, we had to then say something. Um, so no, I don't think the expectation should be there, but some people will take advantage. But for me, it's more when you know that these people merit it and they're helping out in other ways. Then if you've got the money, then there are generous people. So uh, it should be a two-way thing.
It should be a two-way thing, but even if the person is, even if you have someone that is helping out, they may not make what you make or have the money that you're making. But I guess my point is, do they have the right to bring in a third party to spend your money?
Oh no, no, that would be cheeky. No, I wouldn't like that. Um, I seem to remember when you see when you're young, like really young, maybe less than 10 years old, and your mum or dad or whatever takes you to the cinema and you ask to bring along a friend. I think that's kind of an awkward situation where you don't realize how expensive these days out are, or even a trip to the cinema can be. And for young kids, it's not in their mind, but it would be an awkward one. And I think something would have to be said. Then I certainly wouldn't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I also, do you know who MC Hammer is? Do you know who he is?
Say that again. You broke up when you said the name.
M MC Hammer. Do you know who MC Hammer is?
Yeah, the rapper,
Yes.
the
Okay.
musician.
So
Yeah.
right. Okay. So you realize how he lost most of his money, correct?
No, I'm not familiar with that story.
Well, basically, I mean, he was like buying, like, he had like 10 cars. Why you need to have 10 cars is beyond me. I don't care how much money you have. But he had people on his payroll who was like, well, this is my cousin's friend, sister's brother's niece. He was putting people on his payroll who were not doing anything. I mean, they were just, they had no rhyme or reason to be on his payroll. And he looked up one day, he had like 300 people on his payroll, and he had no idea what they did, and they really did nothing. And all of these people were like sponging off of him. So that's why I say, do you allow someone else to spend your significant other's wealth, not your wealth, but your significant others? So whether you're married, whatever, do you have the right to bring your friends and say, "Oh, hire this person. Oh, well, come on, let's bring so and so with, or whatever." And you're constantly footing the bill. It doesn't matter how much money you have. And welcome, Crucible and Lou Rock. So that's more of what I'm talking about. Because I remember a show that Oprah did, and I am not an Oprah fan. I would only watch her show, and there were people on there that I wanted to see. And she had Michael Jordan was on, and Charles Barkley. And Charles Barkley made a comment about how people take advantage of basketball players. And basically, he was saying that if they went out to dinner, um, people would bring extra people with them, especially family members would bring, friends and what have you, and they always expected him to pay. And he was getting sick and tired of it, and he told his family that, and his family kind of got bent out of shape. But it's like, I don't even know these people. You're bringing these people, and they're ordering this, and you know buying this, and they want all this liquor and this and this and this, and that adds up. Why should I have to pay for it? And basically the answer was, well, you can't afford it. And I think that's just just in your face wrong. So basically that is what I meant. So let's see.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
see, in regards to like people on that crazy types of money, then I don't blame them for shelling out and paying for meals and things. Not, and I think the main thing is that the expect is definitely never right. I don't think there's any instance where people should expect to be given handouts. Nothing off the top of my head, anyway. But I mean, when you're using like NBA basketball players or celebrities who are probably making hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, or if not millions, then you can see where people would just slip into that, expectation of, But then again, these people maybe have non-celebrity friends that could never even dream of eating out in some of these restaurants and drinking and eating some of these meals. So in that instance, if they are asking or inviting them out to a meal or somewhere that they know that is well without their out with their budget, then maybe I've maybe just talked myself out of that one. Then you would obviously have to expect that they're going to be picking up the bill, because there's no way you could afford, the
But if
night.
you okay, but if they invite you, if I'm the person with the money and I invite you, okay, whether I have all this money or not, first of all, I think it's rude, and this is just me. I think it's rude that when somebody else is paying the bill, to order the most expensive thing on the menu. I mean, that's what we were taught when we were coming up. My mother always said, if someone invites you out to dinner, do not order the most expensive thing, because that is rude. And number one, for us regular folk, you don't know what someone's budget is. But even if I do have millions of dollars, and I'm an Oprah and or a Michael Jordan, and I have billions and stuff, what right do I have to invite my friends, or invite more people that you don't even know, and those people are just going crazy, whatever, whether I have billions of dollars or $10? That's just downright rude. So um I'm gonna pass it over to Crucible. Welcome. Or and
Hey,
buy and then I'll come back.
hey, everybody. Yeah, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a minute. I don't disagree with anything that anybody has said. I try to mind my social graces when I'm being entertained or being um, um, out to dinner on somebody else's tab. I think Solid is right. If you're raised properly, your parents tell you, you don't take advantage of people. But just to go back to the basketball player example, um, you know, these guys, and I'm not talking about just basketball players, celebrities, actors, actresses, they want it both ways. They cultivate this image and this reputation of having these ridiculously profligate habits. And they're flashy. They've got all kinds of jewelry. I mean, it's not unusual for a basketball player to spend $750,000 on a watch and buy 6 of them. And you see the Cristal champagne, you see all the ostentatious displays of excess. And what do you expect? Again, I'm not excusing people who tag along and say, well, I'm going to get in on some of this because these people obviously have more money than brains. But you can't cultivate this image that money doesn't matter. And I've got more money than I'm going to need for 12 lifetimes and come and get it kind of a thing. That's the image that they cultivate. And they do it on purpose because they're trying to affect an image. And when that image comes home to roost and 15 people are at dinner when you were expecting 4, I have a hard time getting out the violin. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I'm not excusing poor, boorish, rude behavior, but come on, guys, you can't have it both ways.
I'm going to push back on that because that's making the assumption that all of them are doing this, that all of them are trying to cultivate an image where look at what I have. And even if I did go into the store and buy 15 Rolex watches to have one to wear every day for the next 3 months or so what? That is my business. That does not mean that if I invite you out to dinner that you're ordering like 10 bottles of champagne and you're putting 4 in your bag so you can take home whatever.
But I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, Sal. You can have people who are rude and you can have people who cultivate an image. It's not one or the other. It can be both, and I think it is both.
Right. But what I'm saying is I don't think that all celebrities are like that. I don't think that all you know people who are in the public eye are like that. Are some of them like that? Yes. But even if they were, but even if they were pushing that image, it's still their money. It is still their money. If I'm going out and every night I'm like, ooh, look at me. I'm driving a different car and I have all this money and I'm flashing it, whatever. That doesn't mean that that I'm giving any of it to you. That doesn't mean that I'm going to just to spend some of this some of this money on you. So when I push back on you, don't get mad at me because I did not invite you. You have no right to dip into my wallet and spend my money.
I agree with that 100%. I'm just saying some of this could be avoided by just toning it down a little bit. It is their money. They can buy 15 Rolexes every other Tuesday if they want to. It's not my argument here. I'm saying don't go out of your way, and a lot of them do go out of their way to create these very, very public displays of wealth, and you're going to attract what you're going to attract. This has been going on since the beginning of time. So I guess if it's people you didn't invite and people were just showing up and glomming on, and that's a different problem. You got to address that, and people should just be treated accordingly. But if you're cultivating this image and you're kind of asking for people to look at you in a way that's through a lens that's almost exclusively defined by material wealth. And then when people think, well, okay, they've got more than they need, they're just basically just wallowing in it and they're never going to miss it. You can't necessarily fault somebody for that line of thinking. I would never engage in it, and it is their money, but they don't ever seem to stand up and say anything. So maybe after the 7th time, they get pissed off, but good Lord, where were you the first 6 times?
Okay, and again, I say that every celebrity is not like that. Every celebrity, is not like that. Everyone doesn't flaunt their wealth. They may have millions and millions and millions, but every celebrity does not flaunt their wealth. Everyone who wins the lotto does not flaunt their wealth. You have these people who you win the lotto, all of a sudden, people who would not even look your way, all of a sudden they want to be your best friend. So I'm gonna pass the mic to Frankie. Frankie says rude is rude. And Bahram, you wanted to say something else? You wanted to jump in?
No, if Frankie wants to say anything, just I've just got in the door, so I'll take off my jacket and
Okay.
get situated.
So did the cat get food?
Yeah, she got food.
I'm sorry. But Bahram knows I am not a cat lover. Okay. And a formal welcome to Shy Lady. And everyone, before I forget, I know there's not a lot of people here in the group today, but Resurrection Sunday, otherwise known as Easter Sunday, was Shy Lady's birthday. So I just want to wish, I'm giving her a belated shout out. I knew it was her birthday, but giving her a belated shout out. So happy birthday from my turn to talk, Shy Lady. So, all right. Going back to what Crucible said, and again, this topic is coming a little bit off of what we were talking about yesterday and kind of the direction, that Chill and I were going, going yesterday. But again, I think that there are boundaries, and people don't behave. Um, People don't behave. I'm trying to put this in the way that I want to put it. People do not behave in a way. Um, I know what I want to say, but it's not going to come out right. Okay, feel like this. If I'm on a budget, okay. Maybe all I could afford was Denny's, so I'm gonna if I go out to dinner, I'm going to go to Denny's. All right. So all of a sudden, Shy Lady asked me to go out. Do you want to go hang out? You want to have dinner, whatever? And she says my treat. And we go from Denny's to eating at a restaurant at the Four Seasons. You know, um, and we're sitting there. I'm looking at the menu and I'm saying to myself, "Oh shit!" She said it was her treat, so I'm gonna order this and I'm gonna order this, and I ordered all this expensive food. Now, Shy Lady may not say anything. She may not care. Or she could be sitting there, pissed off saying, well, damn, she sure is solid, sure is, ordering all this expensive stuff, and whether, she can pay for it, whatever her budget is. She said it was her treat. She did not put a limit on it, whatever. It's still rude of me to do that. Maybe I don't order a Denny's type of a plate, but I don't have to order, the most expensive thing or go crazy. So again, I'm just saying that whether you're flaunting it any other way, to me is still rude. So Crucible, I know you want to say something.
Well, yeah, and an example, that's a good example. When people say, it's my treat, depending on your relationship with them, if you're really, really close friends and you can say, okay, so can I order the blah, 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 and you can kind of be joking, but you can sort of be feeling them out. And you should know your friend better, well enough to be able to tell if they're just being nice or if they're kind of saying, don't push me on this. So yeah, but it's just respect for a person who's been nice enough to invite you out to a meal, and they're going to pay for it. Um, I think that's just being polite, and it's certainly a way to get invited back out to dinner again. Whereas the other approach, it looks a little tone deaf. It looks a little selfish. It looks like you're taking advantage. But sometimes it's okay to just to have the dialogue and say, is this, are we on a budget friendly meal tonight, or can I, it depends on the situation and the person. But yeah, anybody who takes advantage of somebody, your mother was right. You don't order the most expensive thing. It's just common courtesy.
So do you think and this is for everyone, do you think that is rude for people to put a limit? Like if I say, you know, it's your birthday, my treat, but I put a limit on the meal. Like if I say please don't order anything over $30 because my budget is this, or this. Do you think that's rude?
No, not at all. I think it's just the opposite. I think it's extremely generous because this person is clearly on some kind of a budget, yet they're willing to take some of that limited budget and spend it on their friends. So I think that I would give that person major, major props. I might even leave the tip because that's a person who clearly has got some limited resources, and yet they still don't mind taking people out, but they have to place some limitations because it may physically be, I mean, not maybe physically, but literally be a matter of they don't have enough money on their credit card. They don't get paid until next Tuesday, whatever the case may be, but they still feel compelled to share some of their, their largesse, if that's the right word. So yeah, I would think it's the opposite of being rude. I would consider that to be a great act of generosity.
Okay, so if I took out the part of because my budget, blah, 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 and I just said, please don't order anything over this amount, um, and I just left it at that, do you think that's rude? Do you think that the caveat in there has to be because of my budget?
Yes. Now we're drifting into a little bit more gray area, but now I think the argument shifts over to the people who have been invited, because why else would you place limitations on the price of something that they could order if it weren't a budgetary situation? So it's kind of, you kind of can't have one without the other. But if that person did not specifically cite a budget, you could read between the lines. If they say don't order anything over, then it's obviously a money issue. But if they don't explicitly say it, yeah, I'd have a little bit of an issue with it because I would feel self-conscious. It's like, okay, well, what if I don't like the choices that are under the budget constraints or the budget limitations? What if, I mean, it feels like if you're gonna be entertaining people, in most situations, I'm not saying there can't be exceptions, then you should allow them to relax and have a good time. And if you have to watch every penny, maybe A, don't do it, or B, invite fewer people. But to issue caveats when people are trying to relax and have a good time, I think it just raises the awkward level.
Okay, well, what if the person who is inviting, really wants to, take this person out or take, this group of people out because this group of people have always, picked up the tab or whatever, and they really want to do it, but they're embarrassed to say that, you know, their budget is such and such. So, what do you do?
Well, in that particular case, I think you just have to work with what, play the hand you're dealt. There's plenty of things I was kind of exaggerating. You couldn't find something. If let's just say they said it was $30, most places you can find, they've probably got a decent hamburger. You can probably get a decent chicken sandwich. I mean, it may not be, but it's one meal, and you may file that away. And the next time this person invites you, you may say, you know what, I want to avoid that scenario next time. And you just don't go. But yeah, it's one meal. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours. You can certainly make it through without creating drama.
Okay. And Crazy Lady says go buffet. Okay. Um, see Crazy. Okay. Okay. She's talking to Frankie. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, you got a lot of shout outs here, Shy Lady. Um, okay. So do you think that, um, relatives, now I'm getting into the relative category, um, who take advantage of their wealthy relatives, and wealthy is, can be defined by, for some people, you have $10 more than me, you could be wealthy. So, but you all know what I mean. So for the wealthy relatives, um do you think that those people should be called out? Like, okay, I loan you this. Now you're back again. Okay, now you're back again. Do you think they should be called out, or at some point do you just say no, I don't have it, but they know damn good well that you do? Or do you say no and you tell them why? I mean, it's like, this was a loan. This was not a gift. This was a loan. Should you call out those relatives, not friends, relatives who constantly come knocking on the door? And I'm going to go to Baram. Are you settled?
Yeah, just right now. Yeah, I was making a cup of tea.
A cup of tea. So you wanna answer that? You wanna pass the mic?
Sorry, could you go to Crucible Man first? Because I didn't quite catch what you said there. I was just sitting down.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I said so Crucible will come to you. Do you think that relatives who constantly come knocking on the door on their wealthy relative, that you should call out the poor relatives for constantly coming, but they never pay it back? They never pay back that loan.
Boy, that's a tough one. I've been on both sides of it, and it was only with my immediate family. It wasn't, cousins or aunts and uncles or anything. So it was my immediate family, siblings, and it never got to the point on either me asking to borrow money or me actually lending the money. I've done both. It never got to an uncomfortable situation or an abusive situation. Were there multiple requests? Yes. Were there excessive requests? Probably not. But I think each of them was based on an actual personal crisis situation where it really couldn't be avoided. It wasn't somebody was taking a vacation or somebody wanted to put an addition on their house or something. It was serious lifestyle type things. My sister was going through a divorce at one point. She got hit by a car at another point. She was a single mother during this time. So there was a couple times where she came to me and I gave her the money. I never asked for it back. I knew she couldn't pay it back, and I didn't want to put that burden on her. But I knew what she was going through. She was raising two kids by herself, working as a waitress. Try that for a couple of weeks and let me know how that goes. So I tried to have some empathy in that. And then the situations where, I was the one asking to borrow a little bit of money. I also had a very serious personal thing going on and going through a tough time. And I had to do it twice with my brother, and he was very gracious and very good. And I ended up paying the money back, but I would never have considered going to him a third time. If I did, I would have had to have had should have been, either in jail or, dying from a terminal illness or something, because there is a limit. And because they're your relatives, there's a tendency to trade on that and take advantage of their goodwill. But boy, that's a real tough one. I personally could not bring myself to turn down a relative if they were making the case and I knew that they were in a personal situation and they were not being abusive with credit cards or shopping habits or things like that. If I had it, and that's a big if I had it, I would give it. That's just the way it is. And I would make clear to them, if you can make your way to pay some of it back over a period of time, that would be great. Don't feel obligated, because that's just shifting. You're taking one load off and putting another load on. And if you can avoid that situation, I should do it. You should do it. But that's a coin flip for a lot of people.
Okay. Shy lady, I don't see you, but I know I'll see you when you start talking.
Hey,
There you go. Then you
hello
pop
everyone.
up. Hello.
Yeah, I had a situation like that in my family where we had loaned money to a relative, and like a couple of $1,000. And I mean, we're not wealthy or anything like that. I can't say that, but we loaned this relative the money, and it took her probably about 5 or 6 years to pay it back. The thing about it was that they were going on trips and things like that. And you're like, what? What's the deal? But it wasn't going to affect the relationship as far as it, getting ugly because of that. But it was just kind of like the nerve, that kind of thing. But eventually we got it back. But I don't know if they forgot about it. I don't know, but it just was like, wow, you
Was
going
it
on
was it
trips
was it
and
a significant amount of money?
yeah, it was like 2,000.
Okay, well, I mean, to me, you don't forget $2,000
Yeah, but
while
yeah,
while you're going on a trip.
yeah, but it took a while, but eventually we got it. But I was always wanted to say, wow, you're going on trips. What about the money you owe us? You know, but I never said it because I didn't want to create, a riff or whatever. So I just kept my mouth closed. And it's like, if you have the money, it's like this. If you Some people, that you might not get it back. So if you have it and you might not get it back, then you shouldn't loan it. But if you're gonna miss it
Okay,
that much,
okay,
it's probably
okay.
not good to loan it.
Okay, so what did you say before that? You say, okay, you said if you're going to miss it that much, you shouldn't loan it. And what did you say before that?
Um, about creating a riff.
Okay, I thought you said okay, okay, because okay, I
I
thought you
probably
said
said something else. I just don't remember.
okay. That happens when we get up in age.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
happens.
Hmm. It does.
All right. So, again, I have to quote my father because to me my father was one of the wisest people that I knew, and my father was also notoriously frugal. I mean frugal. But one thing that my father always said, and it's a lesson that I have learned, and I do believe it's true. He says, I do not loan, I do not borrow. If you don't borrow money, don't expect people to loan you money. If you don't loan money, don't expect people to borrow it. And I I totally agree with that 100%. I totally agree. And when you do things for people, even if it's family, and for me, it's just, me and my sister, and you know, she's she's given me money, I've given her money, and we've always paid it back. Because that's what we were taught. Doesn't matter who you borrow money from, you pay it back. And growing up, when we got our week our allowance for the week, my sister was the one who saved her money. She would save her money, save her money, save her money. Me, I'm spending mine, spending mine, spending mine. And it took me a while to learn how to save. But at the same time, when I wanted to go to the candy store and buy this, and my sister's telling me no, or I'm going back to my parents saying, well, can I have this because I want this, whatever, they would say, well, didn't you get your allowance? You better learn how to save your money. So I understand that when things are if someone was in a car accident or something like that, and they needed help, yes. But for people who, like Shag Lady says, I loan you $2,000, but it's taking you 5 years to pay it back to me. But in those 5 years, you're going on trips, and you're going to the store, and whatever, and you're buying bags and shoes, and no, no, no. So, but again, I go back to, if your significant other or a friend of yours, I'll take the significant part out of it. If a friend of yours was very wealthy, your friend, and they invited you out, do you have the right to bring your other homies with you to this outing? Do you have that right? And does the person, like, if I'm the one with all the money, do I have the right to tell them to leave, to say you weren't invited? Is that being rude of me, but but this is my money. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care if I'm Oprah. I don't care if I'm Michael Jordan and I'm a billionaire. Do you have the right to invite someone else to spend my money? And Shy Lady, I'm going to start with you again and go back around. And welcome, Michael Key, and welcome back, Lou Rock.
No, you don't have the right to spend someone else's money.
Okay, that was good.
No,
Okay,
you don't.
okay. So no matter how much money, I mean, if I'm dripping in dollar bills, $100 bills, whatever, I am just filthy rich. Do not bring your homie around to spend my money.
No, it's
So
not
that's
right.
what you're
It's
basically
not
saying.
right. I mean, it's
Okay.
the principle of it. It's not right. That's being a user.
Okay. Now, if someone borrow or asks you for money, and again, you're filthy rich. Someone asks you for money because they need it for this or they need it for that. Supposedly, do you have? And if you did give it to them, do you have the right to want it back?
Again, I know people who have money, who are pretty well off, and they don't loan money. They'll generously give it if they feel like it, but they don't loan money. They do not loan money. Very generous person when they want to, but they do not loan money.
Okay. All right. Grit says, I rejected my stepsister and stepbrother all the time for asking me for money as it was going for drugs. And the reason was they needed to buy baby stuff. Okay. So they were saying it was for the baby, but they were using it for drugs. And then Crucible says, if you lend money, you should assume you'll never see it again. That's where I'm like, no, I'm not assuming I'll never see it again, because if it's a loan, you pay me back. And Michael Key says, hell no. Only if they are invited. See, my girlfriend spends my money. I mean, I'm sorry. If I loan you money, I expect to see it back. If that word loan is there, if you say, can you lend me some money? Then if it's a loan, I expect you to give it back to me. And we may get into an argument if you don't, because I mean, that's just, I'm sorry, but no. So, Bahram, do you want the mic now?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with Shy Lady. I think nobody has the right to spend your money apart from you unless you allow it. And, it's just up to the person, the individual, if they are willing to call them out on it and say, look, I only invited you. You don't have the right to bring your other friends. I only invited you. So can you tell them to leave? And I think that even that in itself is a hard thing to do for some people. But yeah, there's every right to do that.
Okay.
And I also don't think that family members should get a free pass on that just because they're blood. There are family members that have taken advantage of other family members, their wealth and that, and I think that's equally as wrong.
Okay. All right. Lurak says, I've lent people money and didn't expect it in return, but they would come back asking for more. And that's what it is. It's like people, you give them a dollar, they come back for $1.50. I mean, I don't know if it's just human nature or just some people just see if they can just push the envelope. Shy Lady says, make them sign a promissory note, take them to court if they breach the contract. Okay, Michael Key, what do you have to say?
I usually charge them about 2 points above prime on my loans.
You would.
No, I'm kidding.
I know you are.
I mean, I think, well, that's an easy one, like, if you're not invited, then you're not invited. I don't know who thinks it's okay. I guess there are people that do, but I mean, I can't believe this is even a question, right? if someone invites you, you know, and they're paying for you, or you're assuming they're paying for you, and you just bring other people with that same assumption, I don't know who, that's not an American culture thing. I don't know where that comes from.
I mean, but you know that there are people out there who
Oh yeah.
just want that free ride.
Oh yeah. I know there's a lot of athletes that that deal with that, right? Like on my team in college, we had Kevin Byard, who's one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. He plays for the Titans, and he signed a $75 million contract for them. He was the highest paid safety in the NFL, right? And I always wondered, because I know what kind of background he came from. He's got a very large immediate family, let alone extended family. And I've always was curious, you know, how many people had come to him and was now wanting to be friends with him and ask him for money, and, you know, that he had never seen before. I know he bought his mom a house, which is fine. I know he takes care of his brothers and sisters, which is good. I seen a lot of athletes that I do know. I've seen some go broke because of that, because they try to, you know, they get in the money, and all of a sudden they see, or they have all these people they've never even met before that are apparently friends or family of theirs, right? And they're wanting to hang out and do things because they think that they're gonna get something out of it, and that's wrong too.
Okay, so Crucible, I want you to tell Shy Lady and Michael your comment, what you said about I brought up basketball stars. I was talking about something about Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley, something that Charles Barkley has said on Oprah. So
I've seen that.
Crucible,
Yeah, him being
okay,
cheap.
so well, and how Charles Barkley said that all of a sudden people expect you to pay every time you go out to dinner. So Crucible, tell them what you said about basketball players.
Well, the position I took on it was I think they're being just a little bit disingenuous and kind of wanting it both ways, because basketball players in particular, although you could certainly extend it to celebrities in general, they cultivate on an ongoing 24/7 basis this image of extreme obscene wealth, and they insist that you see them through the lens of material wealth almost exclusively. So they buy expensive watches, they buy expensive chains, they buy expensive clothes, they buy expensive cars, they go to expensive restaurants, and this is what they are consciously wanting people to see them as. So when you invite 5 people to dinner and 15 of them show up, I'm not saying that's okay. So please understand, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not excusing rude behavior. I would never in a million years, I don't care how much money this person has or who they are, to just show up on the basis of they have the money and I don't. But I guess what my point was, you can't have it both ways. You can't carefully curate and cultivate this image of profligate wealth and then expect people to turn a blind eye to it when they have a chance to maybe get in on it for a 1 or 2 time opportunity. So, and Solid was pushing back saying, well, that's beside the point. It's their money. They can do with it what they please. And I don't disagree with that. It is their money. But if you spend a lot of time projecting a certain image and insisting and demanding almost that people see you this way, when they do see you that way and they behave accordingly, is it okay to be outraged by it when in fact they're doing the very thing you would hope that they would do? Maybe you didn't hope they show up for dinner, but they're putting you on the pedestal that you asked that they put you on, and now you're having to say, well, wait a minute. I find that to be very disingenuous.
Yeah,
Okay,
I get.
Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You're making a good point. Here's what I will say though is, I think that's gotten a lot better over the years. They've implemented some financial stuff for a lot of these athletes, so it's not as bad, but it still is bad. But well, let's say you get a guy like Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, right? Very flamboyant, very out there. If you don't know who he is, go look him up. But one thing he did was he didn't spend any of his money, but he did go buy fake chains and all that. So he's like, I can just go buy the fake ones, not spend any money, and it looks real. So I can, still have that persona, but I'm not really spending it. So, people are making assumptions about some of these athletes that may not be true.
But Michael, even
That's a good
still,
point.
but even still, my pushback was whether you're going out there buying these Rolexes or whatever is still my money.
Mhm.
And if you bring and if I invite 5 and 15 show up,
Yep.
well then no. And like Frankie says, those other 10 people should be told to leave. Don't
Yeah.
assume. I don't care if you saw me the other day and I just bought five Rolls Royces. It's my money. You don't have the right to spend my
Mhm.
money.
Yeah. And going back to the athletes too, like why would Chad Johnson want to do that, right? Why buy anything at all? Well, a lot of it's a marketing ploy too. That's why Deion Sanders, primetime, right? Any press is good press. And he went out and he was the first one that was like that real flashy, flamboyant athlete, and was out in the media, and he marketed himself, and he ended up being the highest paid defensive back to, at the time, because they weren't making a lot of money at that position, and he's the first one to sign a huge contract. So a lot of it's a promotion and advertising, ploy. And going back to like what Solid Blue Sisters said, it is their money, and they worked hard to earn it. And it's still, even if I see rich people like, I'm from Naples, right? And I mean, you're talking about the rich of the rich of the rich there, and they got the mansions on the beach, got all the cars and all that stuff, right? And I had friends that lived down in that part of town, and when they, if they invited you, they invited you, and if not, then oh well, you never went and tried to exploit it. And I think a lot of athletes do give themselves a bad name. I think they also, where they run into problems is, sorry, it's out of phone call coming. They will invite everybody out and pay for it a couple times, and people start thinking that they're always going to do that. So they can bring it on themselves too. But at the same time, I just don't think us as a society should ever assume that you're entitled to someone's money just because they've become successful, in any way. I mean, I think that's where it starts.
Okay. Shy Lady, you want to comment on what Crucible and Michael said?
I agree. You're not entitled to anyone's money. I definitely agree with that. No question about that. That's about all I can say.
Okay, so no comment on whether or not they get out there and they're show offs or anything like that.
Well, like I think like was it Michael? I think I agree with him. A lot of it is for it's their branding. They want to show people, look at me, I'm this, I'm that. I think it's more of a marketing thing. It's branding, because a lot of these people can't stay rich if they're just giving their money away. I think that a lot of the really smart ones are branding themselves to be a certain image, and it's working. So can't fault them for wanting to create a brand that personifies greatness or wealth or whatever. That's it's all acting. It's just marketing.
Okay, all right. And Frankie, I think I commented on yours already. Yes, I did. Yeah, when Frankie said those other 10 people should be told to leave. So, any comments on what Michael said, or?
Yeah, I mean, I remember what Crucible Man says about their kind of show offs and things, and you are going to have those people who are basically like trying to buy fame, buy friends. I mean, I even had some in academy, so it's like from 13 to 15, 16 years of age. There was this guy who his dad owned a boat, and they were very wealthy, and he basically bought his friends. And I mean, that be it on their head. Like if that's what they want to do, then that's on them. And I mean, as long as both parties know what they're doing, and it's kind of entering into that kind of, I expect to, if you're going to pay for me to come and have dinner with you or go to the cinema or whatever, then they know what they're doing. So I think you do have both types, but that doesn't then mean to say, like, if you're inviting someone out for a meal and they're choosing like the most expensive thing on the menu and ordering all the drinks and things, then there's also that. Like, that's not nice either. There's your limits.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to change it around a bit. You're at a wedding. Okay. This wedding is open bar, which I mean, me, I would never do anything open bar. I just wouldn't. Okay. But it's an open bar wedding. Or it doesn't even have to be a wedding. It's some affair, that your friend is paying for, and it is open bar. And whatever is not used in terms of alcohol, they get refunded. So because it's an open bar, do you take advantage of that? Anybody?
Hell yes.
Damn right. Line forms to the right and the left and down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it,
Okay.
see what I'm thinking? Like, there are times where taking advantage is a good thing. Like, obviously, I'm thinking along the lines of your workplace. If you have a works night out at the end of the year and they've been scroungy all year and there's hardly been any overtime, or you didn't get a pay rise that year, and then they put on a Christmas night out with an open bar and you fill your boots. You know what I mean? It's like you're going to order things that you wouldn't have ordered if you'd been paying for it, and I think more power to you.
Okay, but again, I'm not talking about your job. I mean, if my job did that, then yeah, whatever. But it is your friend. It is your friend, someone that you know. Do you take advantage of it? Do you take advantage of that open bar, knowing that whatever they don't use will be refunded back to them, or they don't have to pay for it? So
I mean, not as much as hell yeah, but yeah. I mean, they're fully expecting to pick up the bill. They're going to know there are going to be people there taking advantage, and I think it just goes down to your character. Like, I certainly couldn't. Like, even when I'm out for dinner with my grandparents, I know they basically tell you every time, pick whatever you want off the menu. I'm paying, and I still couldn't do it. So it's all down to your character there, but when that is an option, then I mean, it's a free for all. So why not?
okay, and Ian, you brought up an interesting thing when you said they said, pick anything you want off the menu. Do you actually do it?
No, that's what I'm saying. I never do it because I always feel. I mean, that's what I'm saying by it's your character, because I know certain people they would say, oh yeah, and fill their boots and rub their hands together and pick the most expensive thing, even though they don't want that thing, they would just take it because it's the most expensive, and that's all about your character. But again, going back to the person that's picking up the bill, they know they're probably sitting there thinking, right, if everyone picked the most expensive thing, this is going to be what I'll have to pay. So am I on board with that? Yes. Okay. I'll tell everyone open bar, or I'm paying. So it's a contract that both parties are okay with. But again, it's all down to your character.
Okay, Crucible.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Ba. It may not be, I like the way you put that. It may not be a hell yeah, but it's still a yeah. What that does, and it's human nature, what open bars and all you can eat buffets what it does is even in our subconscious, it creates an excitement and it creates a mindset that, to Ba's point, figuratively or literally, rubbing your hands together in your mind, like, oh boy, here we go. I'm going to get a chance to have some things I never was able to have before. So I think when people say, yeah, of course I would take advantage of it, it's a rare thing, first of all, when someone's going to say, yeah, order anything you want, or it's open bar. So that's number one. The rarity of the instance is probably the primary thing. But then I guess it creates a mindset, and it almost like literally, and I'm not trying to play puns here, a feeding frenzy in your head. And you're like, okay, let's get in line. Let's get double fisted, just drink two at a time, not because you're necessarily wanting to bleed the host dry and like, oh, they got plenty of money. I don't even think you're thinking about money. You're thinking about, this is an open bar. I can't remember the last time I had an open bar. They can afford it, obviously, or they wouldn't do it. And so I think it feeds on itself. And again, I'm not trying to make these food or drink puns. It just kind of just snowballs, and it kind of gets away from itself from what you initially thought, it's an open bar, but I'm going to pace myself and I'm going to, act like I'm paying for it myself. And then all of a sudden you get caught up with a couple of your buddies and it's like, hey, you've only got one drink in front of you. So yeah, I think it's a very tough thing to resist because it happens so rarely.
Okay. I have another question, and I'm going to go to Shy Lady first for this one. So, do you think that when you look at people who have money and the people who are taken advantage of, do you think that friends or family, because I do believe it happens on both sides, do you think that friends and family would take advantage of an elderly wealthy person, relative or friend, faster than a younger wealthy relative or friend? And Shy Lady?
Do I think a family member would take advantage of an elderly family member who has money versus one that's young that has money?
Yes.
I definitely think they would take advantage of an older one.
And do you think that's because they assume that the older person may not notice it, or?
I think that they feel that the older person is feeble in their mind. I know my parents certainly didn't have a lot of money. My father worked in a factory, but my father had dementia, and there were times that telemarketers would call on the phone. And I mean, I'm grown and gone away. My parents are grandparents at this point, empty nesters. And my mother first started noticing my father with having dementia when he was around 80, and he would give people, telemarketers or people over the phone, large, you need money. Oh, here's $100. And my mother said, "Who are you talking to? Who are you giving your credit card information to?" And he didn't know because he was suffering from dementia. He thought he was doing something nice, and it's just unfortunate. There was one time a kid came to their house and asked my father, opened the door, and it was a girl about maybe 10 or 11 years old, and she was asking for money. Some kids go around, oh, I need money, I need to go on a trip. And these kids go door to door. My cheerleading team, we want to go to Washington D.C. or Disney World. Can you give me some money? And my father gave this girl not a lot of money, I think maybe $20 or $30. And she came to the house a couple of times more. My mother said, who is this girl? And so when my father came to the door, she started, trying to talk to my father and ignore my mother. My mother clearly realized this little girl was scamming, and even brought a couple of her friends with her. Just because my father gave her like $20, she started coming several times a week. And my mother told her not to come back, and the little girl cursed her out. So young people will definitely take an advantage of older people, especially, if they think that they're, like I said, feeble in mind, suffering from dementia, which was, like I said, the case with my father. And I think they'll definitely take advantage of an older person quicker than a younger person.
Okay. I'm going to pass the mic to Frankie. Frankie says people think elderly people are stupid. And I think that they do. I think that people do. And the elderly probably have more on the ball than some younger people. Let's see. Bob, did you want to answer that one?
I totally agree. I think there are some really nasty people out there that are willing to do anything for a buck, and yeah, it's not a nice thing. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, Crucible.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, Shy Lady tells a very, very familiar story. My father, after my mother passed away, we got around the same age as Shy Lady's. I think she said it was her grandfather. And he was very lonely. And a couple of my family members approached him for legitimate reasons. My niece was in nursing school at the time, and she needed some help with her tuition. And she has since graduated and done very well and paid the money back. But some other family members that were not, directly his children or anything, they would do some things and try to take advantage. And it wasn't just because he did have money; he wasn't rich, but he was 80 years old and he probably had $400,000 or $500,000 in the bank. So clearly, he was going to not outlive his money. But he felt very flush and he felt like he wanted to give it away, whether he was doing it in what he claimed in my mother's memory or whatever he was doing. But he was spending it very, very stupidly and very irrationally. And I think it was that they were taking advantage of his age, and they were taking advantage of what I think older people, their generosity. They want to help people. A lot of them are lonely, and so they see money as a way to maybe compensate for some of those things. So I think people prey on older people, and it's not just a money thing. It's an empathy thing. The old people are soft touches, and that's a crime in my world.
Okay. So, when you look at all this money that's being, that's being circulated throughout the world, and a lot of it from very, very rich people, do you think that just because people have money, they should be expected to donate? Anybody?
No, I don't think they should be expected to do anything. I think that's what we end up putting a lot on people who are you talking about specifically anybody who has money or older people?
I'm talking about even if it's older people, younger people, athlete, whatever, whoever has a lot of money. Do you think that they should be expected to donate?
No, not at all. I don't think there should be any expectations at all. Would it be nice from a moral standpoint? Of course. But where do you draw the line? You're donating to this, you're donating to that. Pretty soon it becomes not a donation anymore. Now you're just giving out money. So, no, I think that's a very slippery slope. And we place unfair demands on people who have money as if, since you have it, you shouldn't matter what you spend it on. But no, I'm adamantly opposed to expecting people to do anything, particularly donate to charities and whatnot, just because they have it. I think most of those people probably do anyway, but no, I don't think that's a hard no in my world.
Okay, so I specifically asked this question because I wanted to see what people were going to say. And Crucible, you answered first, so I am going to pick on you because do you think there's a little bit of hypocrisy there from what you said before about the athletes and setting themselves up and what have you? So what do you expect? So couldn't you say the same thing? Well, you've been buying these Rolex watches and you've been doing this and you've been doing this and you've been doing this, but now you can't donate to the Wild World Life Fund. You can't save a polar bear.
Well, I could put it back on you and say, well, it's their money. Kind of what you said about the Rolex watches and everything. It's their money. They should be able to do with it whatever they want. And if they don't want to donate to a specific charity or anything, then I don't think they should have to. Because because I don't see the people who have money, if whether they're being ostentatious about their spending habits or not, it's still their money. And where do we draw the line in terms of expectations?
Right.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line in terms of expectations if I invite 5 people to dinner and I'm, this celebrity who every time you all see me, I'm showing off. I'm taking a selfie of me just buying what is it, a Birkin bag for like $10,000, whatever. But now I don't want to donate to the Red Cross. So you're right, it is my money. So why push back on people who don't want to pay for someone's dinner, or invite themselves and pay for their dinner, as opposed to now you're asking me to donate, to the Red Cross.
Well, I think the distinction I would make in that example, what I was making about the basketball players and the celebrities, is they go out of their way to cultivate an image. Not all wealthy people do that. So you could expect the wealthy basketball players to donate because they would seem to have no limitations on what they spend their money on. But if you're just an ordinary wealthy person who doesn't, go out of their way to show off their wealth, then why would you put expectations on them? They're just minding their own business and counting their money. So I think that's where I would differentiate the two.
But whether it's a celebrity or basketball player who is, showing off with their wealth, again, it's still their money. It just seems like there's still that distinction between, I'm showing off, I'm doing this, but you better not ask me to pay for a meal. But now, it's okay for me to donate, or it's expected of me to donate.
Well, I think expectations, whatever area you want to put them in, whether they're financial or moral or ethical or whatever, I mean, they're your expectations, and expectations are not, the same for everybody. So what is an expectation? It can be very subjective. And let's just say I do donate, and I donate $100 and I've got $10 million in the bank. Somebody could very easily say, well, that's all you're going to give. My expectation would be you'd give at least $1,000. So when you have expectations, you're putting expectations on people. Where does it end? And when do they fulfill your expectations?
Right. And that's my whole point, where I'm coming back full circle, saying no matter how much money someone has, it's their money. If I have $1 billion, it's my money. If I don't care if I'm showing off every single day and I invite, like you said, 5 people and 15 people show up, I have the right to tell those other 10 people to leave. And if they say, well, you can't afford it, you were not invited, it's still my money. If you ask me to donate something, like you said, I'm giving you 100, and you come back and say, well, I would expect you to give 1,000. Again, it's my money. Don't spend my money. To me, they are exactly the same.
Yeah, can I jump in there?
Yes.
I think there's a couple of things that are springing to my mind. One more recently is like with Elon Musk he's on about buying Twitter, and there's people online saying, look, this guy could basically wipe out world hunger, yet he wants to buy Twitter. And then you had like Jeff Bezos when he went into space, and everyone was saying like there's what COVID's done to the world, and this guy just wants to play in his toys and go to space. And I totally, as much as I don't like these people, they have every right to do what they want with their money, if they earn it. And I mean, obviously everyone's got a gripe on how much they get paid for doing so little. That would be the only thing I could push back on. But in regards to their money, it's up to them what they do. So there's no expectations, and just because they maybe have £1 million in their bank account and someone only has 1,000, it doesn't mean to say that they have to match like proportion of their wages. Like I think the whole tax thing, like taxing more on the rich, I would probably stand up against that, because everyone should be taxed equally, the exact same amount, and it should be a low amount, in my opinion. In fact, it should be zero, in my opinion. But just because people earn more, it's not a reason to expect them to dish out more. again, you could hold your opinions on what type of person they are. If they're, spending it all on drink and drugs and whatever, meanwhile their family's falling apart, or they have poor people in their family, they might be selfish people. But there shouldn't be any expectation.
All right. Shy lady?
I think no matter how much money you have, you shouldn't be obligated to donate to anything. I think, I have to agree with, I don't know if it's Crucible or Bahram. I think that you can say the same thing about a person who's poor. Should they be required to donate $1 to something if they have a few dollars? So it's like, I think that people should have free will, free choice. That's what America's supposed to be about, having free will, free choice. And even if you are, a billionaire, I mean, it's your money. It would be nice, but you shouldn't be forced to donate to something because you have the money. But it would be nice, especially if you are a person who has made your money doing things that people have made you rich for it. That would be nice, if you would do that to give back. But I don't think they should be forced to.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go the petty route now. Okay. I am going to get petty. Do you think that if you are going on a school trip or something, and there are, one or two children in the class that cannot afford to go, do you think the school should foot the bill? Or do you think that it's okay for them to ask, not every parent, but certain parents in the class who happen to have a little bit more money than others, to ask them to foot the bill simply because they have the money? Anybody?
Yes, I think they should. I mean, it's a little bit of a difficult decision as to whether private citizens, the parents of the other students, should be expected to pay for a school function. If but then you get a different side of that coin. If the school does it once or twice, are they obligated to do it all the time? But I do remember when I was a kid, it didn't happen very often, but I don't remember the circumstances, but we went on a lot of field trips when back in the 70s.
Yes,
We were
yes,
out all the
we
time.
did. Yes.
We were out all the damn time. And
Mhm.
I remember occasionally there would be somebody who couldn't go. We didn't really get an explanation. We were kids, but I do remember us getting on the bus and one or two kids each time they had to spend the day in the classroom. And I don't know how they were supervised. It doesn't really matter for purposes of this conversation, but they were left in the classroom. And I don't ever remember any fallout. I don't remember who these kids even were, but I do remember thinking that was a little bit cruel. And I remember thinking during the field trip, what are those kids doing back in the, my mind was wandering. What are those kids doing back in the classroom all day long while we're out here like this? So aside from the appropriateness of it, I think the longer term implications of having kids ostracized, I mean, they're clearly, and they know, they may not share with their classmates why they can't go on the field trip, but they know their parents told them I can't afford it. So I think the long-term damage that can do to a student is much more onerous than, okay, I'm going to pull $25 out of my pocket so Susie can go on the field trip. Are you crossing some lines there? Probably, but like I said, it's a trade-off. Neither of those outcomes are good, but I would try to err on the side of having everybody included, whatever form that took.
Shy lady.
That actually happened with one of my kids' field trip. Every year they would go to this camp. The fifth graders would go to this camp, and I think it was like $200 for the week. I mean, 250, something like that. But they got all their meals included in that, and it was a nice little field trip. It was like I said, it was the whole week, Monday through Friday. And there was a couple of kids who didn't go, and but most of the kids, 99% of them did go. I don't think that it's just my opinion. I don't think it's right for the school to go to other parents to ask them to provide the money for the kids that can't go. If the school has it, it would be a nice gesture, especially if it's a private school. If it's a public school, it's probably not going to happen because they're always, depending on the district, they're always, complaining about the funds. But I think it sends a message to sometimes the wrong message because some people who are poor may grow up thinking that people owe them something. And I know in the Bible it says the poor will always be with you. But I think it kind of sends the wrong message in a way because they'll feel like, well, I don't have it. You owe me. Well, there comes a point when you grow up that you can change that. You can do something to, and I know people who have grown up like really, really poor. And they say, you know what? I don't want to be like the way my mother struggled or whatever. I don't want to be like that. I'm going to do everything in my power to be able to buy her a home or whatever. And I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to depend on anybody to make it. Sometimes people get in those situations because they might have had a spouse that died, which is unfortunate, and they become a widow or whatever. And it's very unfortunate, but I kind of think it sends the wrong message when you ask someone personally, a family, the school, to say, you have the money. Why don't you pay for them? I don't think it's right to do that. And like I said, I think it sends the wrong message to some families or kids to expect handouts when it's not anyone's fault what happened to you.
Well, you make a good point, and the reason why I brought that up was because when my son before he was homeschooled and he was going to a brick and mortar school, he was in third grade, no, fourth grade, and they were taking a weekend trip to Catalina. And just so you know, Catalina is in Southern Cal, and the only way to get there is either by helicopter or by boat. So that's the only way you can get there. You cannot drive. So it was a weekend trip, and a whole bunch of fourth graders, and it was $250 per person, and that included if you were a chaperone, you had to pay the $250. So for my son and I, it was $500, and he had his really good bestie. I mean, the two of them were like they were stuck together like glue, and she couldn't go. And her mom had told me that this person would not be able to go because she couldn't afford it. She couldn't do it. She's trying to pay school tuition, whatever. She just couldn't afford it. And her daughter was really upset. My son was upset that she wasn't able to go. So I paid for her to go. And her mom didn't go, but I paid for her to go, so she was able to go. But then there were 3 other children in the classroom that also could not go because their parents could not afford it. And the teacher came to me and 3 other parents saying, well, do you think that you all can chip in and pay? And I said, no. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. And one of the parents said, well, why don't you just go to the school board? They should just pay for these kids. We're paying this much in tuition. You're going to tell me that you all can't, spend, what, $750, whatever it is for these kids, the kids to go. And they wouldn't do it. So those other 3 kids, they didn't have to sit in the classroom. they were able to, because it was the weekend, so they were at home, but they didn't go. And of course, when the other kids came back, it was a really nice trip. When the kids came back, they were, yeah, we did this, and da 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 da, and they're just kind of sitting there. So and Crucible's right. Back in the day, we went on field trips. Oh my goodness, we went on field trips, and that's one reason why I wanted to homeschool my child, because with the programs that he was in, they were doing. I have driven all over the state of California. Some of the things that we have seen in on field trips is like wow, But if school districts cannot afford it, then there should not be a field trip for anyone. But then again, at the same time, what do? Do you like not do the field trip because your kid can't go, so everyone else has to suffer? I think that the school should pony up and pay. So, Crucible or Ba?
Well, don't you think to a certain extent, and I agree with you. I agree with Shy Lady as well. I'm really on the fence. I don't think it's fair to go to other parents, even though other parents might be very willing to contribute to help another student go. It's not their responsibility, and I think you got to be real careful with that separation of those entities, parents and schools. But also, you're right. If everybody can't afford to go, maybe that's the wrong field trip. You got to kind of pay attention to what your student constituency is. And if you're a school that's maybe in a lower income neighborhood, you should have appropriate field trips that reflect the income levels of the people who attend your school. And I understand every once in a while you have a very important cultural event that you want to bring your students to. Maybe it's a once in a generation exhibit at the Art Institute or whatever it happens to be, a very unique type of a thing that ordinarily, let's just say field trips are $10, pick a number. This one's going to cost 50. And you send a note out to the parent and you say, I understand, blah, blah, blah. I can understand once in a while doing that, but I think schools need to be sensitive to who is attending their school and schedule field trips that would appeal to everybody's budget and not create class divisions, no pun intended.
No, and you make a good point. But okay, for instance, in California, no matter you're in public school or private school, when you're in 4th grade, you do a mission. There is a project that you do about the California missions, and everybody, I don't know if it's the curriculum for California, but every 4th grader has to build a mission. Okay, you have to go get your popsicle sticks or whatever, however you're going to build it. In the stores, they even sell this stuff, mission, stuff. So, and for some schools, they actually take trips to these missions. Now, some of them are day trips, some of them are overnight trips, but it's gotten to the point where field trips are like, gold now. Like I said before, we went on field trips. You get on the school bus and everybody went. Your mother paid $2.50, and that was it. But now it's like a field trip can literally cost like $50, $100. When my son was in third grade, we took a bus to San Diego, and we went to the San Diego Zoo. And I remember that trip was $75, and I'm like, okay, $75, we're going to go to the San Diego Zoo, and it, it also costs to get in, whatever. But again, field trips nowadays are expensive. So does that mean that everybody doesn't get a chance to go to the zoo? What do you do? Where are you going to go? Where you going to have a cheap field trip unless you walk to the park?
I don't think it should be on the parents to pay for field trips. I think it's obviously education is a government funded thing, so it's really a people funded thing because we pay for it via tax money. So I think the government should cover that, whether it's put into the tax at the start of the year when they say like this is the amount of money that we're charging tax for schooling and education, or the school board finds a way. Or what about even like having the kids do something to earn money, like bake cakes, or I think here in the UK, I think sometimes they go to supermarkets and they'll help fill up the shopping bags, and they'll have like a bucket with, people can put their loose change in there. So it also instills that into them that, to get something you must earn, do something in return, like you're earning money. So I think, and that kind of would cut out, I've been there when kids can't, their parents can't afford it and they're left behind, and I don't think any kid should have to feel that. So I don't think it's fair to put it on the parents. I think it's
Okay,
something
but
else to
Bob,
it.
but aren't you putting it on the kids? If you're saying, okay, now, okay, in order for you to go on this field trip, in order for you to earn this $50 or this $75 or 250, whatever, you have to go to the store and
No,
you have to put stuff in, or bag things. Whereas the people
no, but
whose parents are able to afford it, they're sitting at home.
No. What I meant was make it a school thing where the whole class bakes
Oh,
cakes
okay.
for, you know what I mean, and the whole class, because that's what they do here. Is the teacher will take these kids over to the local supermarket and they'll stay with them all day, whether it be a Saturday or a Sunday, and or bake cakes during school time. Just do something, and even if they don't reach the full target, or have a very, have the school trip be something that's very reasonable, so that target could be met. And then even if they don't meet it, then the school board could top it up to the required amount. I think that would be a much better way.
All right. Okay. Crucible.
I think Bob made some really good points. I don't think the burden should fall to parents, even if you're attending a school in a affluent area. I suppose you could make an exception if you want to go to Catalina, or you want to take a trip to Washington, D.C., or, really break the bank on a field trip. But I think it should be the school's responsibility, because these days, times are tough. I don't know if they do as many field trips these days anymore than they used to. It's pretty hard to do more, but I think they probably don't do as many. But it should be the responsibility of the school, period. If you can't afford to bring everybody on a field trip, as you said earlier, Solid, don't have the field trip. It's just that simple. If you can't include everybody, because kids are very impressionable at an early age, and to be the one who has to sit in the classroom, that's a stigma that is just it's avoidable, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, see, I don't think you should have to sit in the classroom, but once again, and you all tell me if this is something that, as far as I know, it's a California thing, but I think they do it across the country. When you get into 8th grade, you do the Washington, D.C., New York trip, and then you may do it again when you're a senior. A lot of 8th graders look forward to that trip, and everybody can't go. I mean, you're gone for an entire week. Everybody can't go. So does that mean that everybody should have to stay home because one or two people cannot afford to go? And I remember when I was in high school, the senior trip was to Hawaii. Um, and then they changed it. Um, like I think the year before I graduated, it was a trip to Disneyland in LA. So does that mean that the seniors, just because a couple of people can't afford to go, and about these trips, and so people are saving up the entire year, you have these payment plans or whatever. Does that mean that no one can go because everyone can't go? Do you penalize the entire class?
Can I add something?
Sure.
Okay, some people might not be aware, but every district is different. Every state is different. because some people are saying that the school should pay for it. Well, there are some schools in America that are public schools where they're in affluent areas, and the state may pay $15,000 per kid for that school, whereas in an inner city, the price per pupil may be $6,000. So it depends on the school and the area as far as the school actually having the money. Now, in affluent neighborhoods, every kid is probably going to go on a field trip to Washington, D.C. because they're in an area that can afford it. Most public schools, especially the ones that are in inner cities or less than affluent neighborhoods, say working class neighborhoods. They don't have to be inner city, but working class neighborhoods. Most of the time, in these school districts, the teachers don't even have money from the school to buy the kids markers. Every year that my kids had to, and my kids were in a blue ribbon school. It was public school, but the schools always had trouble um, with the teachers always paying out of her pocket for extra things for the kids to have. And it was just really unfortunate. They were always complaining about never having enough funding for the kids. So if a field trip came up, like an expensive one, like I said, to go to this camp, $250 per person, that kid didn't go. Who didn't have the money? If they're in public school, they didn't go because the school board didn't have it. And most parents, they're working class parents, they can't afford to give other people's kids money. It's just something you have to live with or deal with. And if you're in private school, most of the time those kids can pay because they're in private school. Now there are some kids who are in private school and they're on scholarships, but for the most part, kids who go to private schools, their parents can afford for them to go on field trips. For the most part, they're going to, because most of these private schools are in the thousands of dollars a year, so they can afford for their kids to go. But like I said, there are some public schools who the teacher can't even afford markers. I knew teachers that my kids were going to school with that were constantly spending their own money for things that the schools told them they couldn't afford for them to have in their classrooms. So it's not that cut and dry.
Well, Brina and I have been having this conversation amongst us where we were talking about how we had to, pay for, um, the teacher would send a list home, and we would get this list, and it would be for Kleenex, for, like Brina said, it would be for like Lysol wipes, it would be for pencils, it would be for all of this stuff, that you had to bring. And I realized that when my son was homeschooled, when I started homeschooling him, I was like, oh my God, I don't have a list. I don't have to go out and get this stuff. But what they would do is they would usually tell every parent, every child must bring this to school. Again, for school supplies for the classroom, to me, that's something that the school should provide. You should not have parents going out and buying stuff that the school should provide. When I was growing up, my mother did not have to go out and buy my teacher markers. They already had them. I don't know if the teacher bought them. I don't think so. I think the school had them. But then there were some people where in the last school that my son was in, they would ask certain parents, can you buy this? Can you buy that? Can you do this? It's like, well, why are you asking me? Can you, go ask them, whatever. So it's like, it's that perception of, well, we know you have it and you can afford it. Well, again, I just got finished paying this tuition, whatever. You can't go out and you can't go to the Dollar Tree. I mean, come on. So, shy lady.
I agree with you. When my kids were in school, from kindergarten up until I think sixth grade, I'm spending $40 every back to school. Markers, crayons, construction paper. It was a printed list on the school website. On the school website, every year I'm spending at least $40 per kid for basic items. Like you said, when we were in school, you didn't have to buy construction paper because the school had it. But now every year, public school, you're given a list of markers and crayons and construction paper and glue, of all things,
Yeah, glue. Yeah, glue. I forgot about the
scissors.
glue.
Yes,
Scissors.
scissors. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
these items would have easily $40. And like you
Mhm.
said, Lysol wipes, a box of tissues,
Mhm.
all of that. Each kid had to bring all of that. And
Mhm.
this is public school.
Mhm.
So asking someone to chip in and pay for some kid to go to camp for $250, not this school. That kid
So
would
that's
not go.
So that's why I say, do people take advantage of people who they perceive to have money, who have billions of dollars? I mean, do they take advantage of that? Do schools take advantage of it? Do churches take advantage? I'm asking you in instead of her. I've been in situations where I've gone places and a family of five. This is a family of five who they wanted, again, certain parents, well, can you chip in for this family? Well, it's five of them. You know how much money you're asking us to spend for this particular? It's five of them. No. And they couldn't go. And there and at the same time, I also think that you should teach your children, because there are times when I told my son, there are going to be times when you don't get invited places, and there are going to be times when you just can't go. So do I think they should sit in a classroom? No, I think that if a child cannot go on a field trip, they should have the option of either, if they want to go to school, they want to sit in the library or whatever all day, which I doubt any kid would want to do, they should be able to stay home. So anybody? Bach, you want to respond, or anybody? Crucible?
This is just the whole tax thing. Like, it just annoys me because obviously taxation, you realize how much money the government takes from everyone's wages to cover things like this, and we're all sitting and complaining about just now it's schooling and education, and tomorrow it might be the state of our hospitals and healthcare, and it seems that every government service has just fallen by the wayside. And I always put it down to, like, in Scotland, there's a population of 5 million people. Now, if you said that every person pays £1 in tax a day, which is way more than that, because obviously probably a good percentage of Scotland's population are working, and they're probably getting at least £100 of tax taken off their wages a week. So let's just say it's £1. That's £5 million a day that the Scottish government get. That's £35 million a week. So, why are we failing? And our roads are all messed up, and it's just a shambles. But and I think Crucible Man's comment there, the a la carte school system, is true. They're just taking the piss. Basically, you'll hear the government talking about, oh, we're going to have to cut the budget on schooling this year, or on hospitals this year, because they need to fund their wars or whatever, and everything else goes to shit. And it's, sorry for my little rant, but it just pisses me off.
No, a friend of mine sent me a text last night because they were pissed off that Biden is giving yet more money to the Ukraine. And, everyone has, whatever administration, they have given money to something. And this person said, so Biden's sending more aid to the Ukraine. Meanwhile, Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. And that's been what, like 10 years now? So again, it's like, are you asking people who have money to foot certain things? But at the same time, we bringing in the government, and like Boss said, with the taxes and everything, why are we? I mean, you know, what are we spending our money on, and should people budget? So I'm going to take this full circle, and I'm just going to for the original topic. So no, I don't think that parents who have money should foot the bill for other children unless they want to. I paid for this one little girl because she and my son, and they're still friends now. They were stuck together like glue. And I know that he and my son really wanted her to go, and I could afford it, so I paid the $250 for her to go, and she had a good time. I was happy about that. But at the same time, um, I think it's wrong to take advantage of people just because they have the money. And by going back to your whole tax thing, I do believe that everyone, if you wherever you are in the world paying taxes, everyone should pay the same amount, because that makes it fair. If you have $1 billion and the tax scale is you only pay, three thousand a year, everybody pays 3,000 a year. It has, because right now, with people, some people getting this and some people getting that, we're always going to have the haves and have nots. So we're at the 145 mark. I wasn't really paying attention, but any last words from anybody before we close this down?
Yeah, I think I think you made a very good points out. I think Bob did as well. I think the burden should fall to the schools. It shouldn't fall to other parents. It's nice that you did that, and if parents want to step in, that's great, but it shouldn't be an ongoing expectation, except in the case of the Washington, D.C. trip or the New York trip or the Hawaii trip. I think that's perfectly fine, given anytime you're going to get airfare involved or a train trip or things like that, you're in another category. It's not your normal field trip. So I think it's okay if people stay behind. There's no stigma to that, because it's not like you couldn't afford to go to the forest preserve, for Christ's sake. You can't afford to go to Hawaii. There's no crime in that. There's a long list of people who can't go to Hawaii. But everything else should be the responsibility of the government, because you're creating unfair and unnecessary burdens on children where they don't belong. So that's it. Interesting show today, Solid. Thanks for having me.
Okay. And Shy Lady.
I agree that parents shouldn't have to pay because they have more money than other parents. They shouldn't have to pay for other students' unfortunate situation. And our government, as much money as we have, it's unfortunate that the public school system is still lagging behind in things, affordable books. It's just so unfair in so many different neighborhoods in different states where public school education is not equal. It's just not equal at all, let alone field trips. We won't even get into field trips. Just the fact that a lot of schools in less fortunate areas cannot get the books or even the teachers that are qualified to teach these kids what they should learn. So it's just unfair all around. It's just a very unfortunate bureaucratic system.
Well, Shy, I'm gonna tell you this. When I was working in entertainment, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people whose kids went to Hollywood High, and I'm sorry, uh, Beverly Hills High, and those were kids who at 16 years old, they are driving Rolls Royces to school, or they have a driver. Their senior field trip, they went to Europe. So and you can imagine, most of them probably went, but they also had people there who were on the other side of the tracks, and they gave those kids a really hard time. So, Ba, you have any last words?
Yeah, thank you again for having me on. It's been a good topic. I kind of like the second part of the show more. It was more my cup of tea. It's like the taxation stuff, the school, and the way that the world is kind of just fallen by the wayside, in my opinion. The government services and that, it's just, I don't know about America, but certainly here in the UK, it's pretty much everyone has a view on it, and it's just horrible. So that's why I always say, I know we spoke about this on one of your shows, I think it was last week, about privatization. Make everything private and less taxation, so that you can spend your money on what you want to, instead of having it taken for these second rate services. Anyway, thanks again. And could I just plug my show and talk about friendly differences a little bit?
I was going to ask you to do that. That's why I came to you last.
Yeah. Sorry, I am going to do a show tomorrow, guys. I know I didn't have one last Thursday, but tomorrow I'm going to hopefully get my show up and running with it with the sound. It's just annoying with it, my sound music, and I want to be able to play files of music and commentary throughout my show. And I have one. I actually dropped an episode of Bar Am You tonight. It's just a little chitty chatty episode for 35 minutes where I spoke a bit about Yuri Bezmenov, an ex-KGB informant. And it's probably one of my top 2 or 3 videos that I always say to people to watch. It's a 6-minute segment out of his 1.5-hour episode that basically describes what's going on in the world just now with demoralization and that. So I'll be talking about that tomorrow on my show. And with Friendly Differences, we actually got our first ever strike on YouTube. I was at work today and I got an email from YouTube saying that the Friendly Differences show that we did on Saturday night, which was on voter ID, has been removed because it violates their terms and services. I assume it is because we talked about the 2020 election with Biden and Trump. And I mean, I didn't think we were at all controversial. I think it was just opinions, and we didn't even mention that what I think they're referring to, that everyone I'm sure has heard what Trump's got to say about what happened that day, but I don't think we even went as far as that. So it just goes to show you how YouTube are behaving with the censorship.
Well, and I will say that, and I know Michael is not on. He had to take a phone call, but Michael's show on I'm sorry, not a show. It was a show, I guess. It was a 30-minute show that he uploaded to Twitter. It was really informative. And he told some funny stories about having Tourette's. And Twitter put him in Twitter jail for 24 hours or 12 hours, 24
Wow.
hours. They took that video down. And I did not know that when you put a video up on Twitter that they have a transcript, whatever. But it was such a, I mean, it was, it's a shame that they took it down. And, Michael said that on Twitter, people are posting porn, which they are. I'm constantly getting porn, in my feed, and I'm having to block it and report it, whatever. But they show that,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yep.
so I'm really surprised that they took our show down from Saturday, but they didn't take down the COVID show.
Yeah.
Does Elon Musk need to buy YouTube now too? Sounds like it.
Well, I think Elon Musk is going to make things even worse. So, but I don't know. I mean, again, you have these code words and putting it up probably, maybe for voting rights as opposed to voter ID, the way we label things, whatever. But, once again, some things that I've seen on YouTube is like, seriously, they leave this up, but they took this down. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the thing with it. It's a grey area. There's a lot of episodes. I think surely that one's going to be pulled down, and it doesn't, and then others are pulled down. No one knows the algorithm and how it works.
Well, more than likely, we will probably, in terms of streaming, and we still have Facebook. We have Twitch. So I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know. But with that, does anyone have anything else to say?
No.
Okay. Well, and Baram, don't start.
Oh yeah.
First
chill, Will.
No, hey, because Bob started today. I wish you all could see when you all do the playback. I wish Podbean would be able to show you guys the chat. But Bob was first one in, and he was starting some shit. So, okay. And on that note, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. I hope to see you tomorrow. Go where the wind takes you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and bye. What time is your show tomorrow?
7 o'clock. Well, so that's 11 a.m.
That's 11 a.m. Pacific time. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Might do a test show before it, so just to test out.
Okay. All right. I had to do a test show really quick before I did this one because my music wasn't playing correctly yesterday. So Brina was like, no music? No music? I'm like, I have music. Bye, Brina.
Right. Bye, guys. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Crazy Lady, Woody Bush, Baram, Brina, Power Girl, Frankie, Brina, Crucible Man. Thank you for your gifts. Lou Rock was here. Grit was here. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, y'all. Go home. See you tomorrow. Bye.